Good morning. Gorgias days 27. I'm not sure if and when I'll be able to post this. We're experiencing internet problems at the moment. It seems it's not just me. I'm meeting with someone later today who typically has internet problems. It's very strange. Anyways, back to Plato. Well, since you have finished all else, you may finish this too. Okay, so I'm going to finish this today because now it's a very long speech of Socrates. And who cares? Give ear then, Socrates says, as they say, to a very fine story, which you as... Oh, I even forgot to put on the recording device, but never mind, it should be fine. Which you, I suppose, will consider fiction, but I consider fact, for what I am going to tell you shall recount as the actual truth. As Homer says, Zeus and Poseidon and Pluto divided their kingdom amongst themselves after inheriting it from their father. Now in the days of Kronos there was this law about mankind, which from then till now has prevailed among the gods, that the man who has led a godly and righteous life departs after death to the isles of the blessed, and there lives in all happiness exempt from ill. But the godless and unrighteous man departs to the prison of vengeance and punishment, which they call Tartarus. And in the days of Kronos, and even when Zeus was but lately come to power, living men rendered judgment on the living, pronouncing sentence on the very day on which these were to die. And so the verdicts were not well given. Accordingly, Pluto and the stewards from the Isle of the Blessed came and told Zeus that the wrong people were going to both places. Then Zeus said, "Well, I will put a stop to that. Cases are judged badly now," said he, "because those who are tried come to judgment with their clothes on, for they are still alive when judged. And therefore many," said he, "who possessed evil souls are invested with fine bodies and lineage and wealth, and when the trial takes place, many witnesses come forward to testify that they have lived righteous lives. So the judges are dazzled by these, and at the same time they are clothed themselves when they give sentence, their eyes, their ears, and their whole bodies acting as a screen before their souls. They have all these hindrances before them, both their own clothing and that of those on trial. First of all, said he, men must be stopped from foreknowing their deaths. For now they have knowledge beforehand. Okay. Prometheus has already been told to stop this foreknowledge. Next, they must be stripped naked of all these things before trial, for they must be judged after death, and the judge must be naked too and dead, scanning with his soul itself the souls of all immediately after death, deprived of all his kinsmen and with all that fine attire on his left on earth, that his verdict may be just." Okay, I think my throat is acting up because this morning I was actually thinking about a moment where I judged the soul, or no, judge is not, felt the soul of another soul with my soul, and how my soul responded. Now I had realized all this before you, and I have appointed some of mine as judges, two from Asia Minus and Ramadantus, and one Icus from Europe. And when these are dead, they will all court in the meadow, at the crossroads from which two paths lead, one to the Isle of the Blessed, the other to Tartarus. And Ramadantus will judge those who come from Asia, and from those from Europe, and Minos I will grant the privilege of court of appeal, if the other two are in doubt, so that the judgment about which path men take may be as just as possible. I have to think of Constantinople or Istanbul, where Asia and Europe meets. This is what I have heard, Callicles, and I believe it to be true, and from this story I infer the following conclusion. Death, in my opinion, is nothing else but the separation from each other of two things, soul and body. And when therefore they are separated from one another, each of them retains pretty much the same condition as when the man was alive, the body retaining its own nature, with all the marks of treatment or experience plainly visible. For instance, if a man's body was large either by nature or through diet or through both causes while he was alive, after death too his corpse will be large, and if fat when living, then fat too after death, and so on. And if either he habitually wore his hair long, his corpse too will be long-haired. And further, if a man was a jailbird and bore traces of the blows he received when living, in the form of scars on his body inflicted by the lash or from other wounds, you may see the same marks on his body after death too. Or if any of his limbs were broken or distorted in his lifetime, the same things are evident in death. I think we get the point, Socrates. And in a word, of the physical characteristics acquired in life, all or the greater part are visible for some time after death, and so I believe that the same thing is true of the soul, Callicles. Once it has been stripped of the body, everything in the soul is manifest, its natural characteristics and the experiences which a man's soul has encountered through occupations of various kinds. When therefore they arrive before their judge, those from Asia before Ramadantus, he holds them and scans the soul of each, quite unaware whose it is. But he will often lay hold of the great king or any other king or potentate and see that there is no sign of health in this soul, but that it is torn to ribbons by the scourge and full of scars to perjuries and crime, the marks branded on the soul by every evil deed, and that everything is crooked through falsehood and imposture, and nothing straight because it has been reared a stranger to truth. And he sees that owing to the license and luxury and presumption and incontinence of its actions, the soul is charged with this poor proportion and ugliness. And seeing this, he sends it away in ignominy straight to the prison house, where it is doomed on its arrival to endure the sufferings proper to it. And it is proper for everyone who suffers a punishment rightly inflicted by another, that he should either be improved and benefited thereby, or become a warning to the rest, in order that they may be afraid when they see him suffering what he does, and may become better men. Now those who are benefited through suffering punishment by gods and men are being those evil deeds, are beings whose evil deeds are curable. Nevertheless, it is from pain and agony that they derive their benefit, both here and in the other world, for it is impossible to rid of evil otherwise. The fire purifying gold. But those who have been guilty of the most heinous crimes and whose misdeeds are past cure, of these warnings are made, and they are no longer capable themselves of receiving any benefit, because they are incurable. But others are benefited who behold them suffering throughout eternity, the greatest and most excruciating and terrifying tortures, because of their misdeeds, literally suspended as examples there in the prison house in Hades. A spectacle and a warning to any evildoers who from time to time arrive. And one of these, I maintain, is Archelaus, if Polus tells us the truth, and any other tyrant too of like character, and I think that most of these warning examples are chosen from tyrants and kings and potentates and politicians, for these, owing to the license they enjoy, are guilty of the greatest and most impious crimes. Now Homer bears me out in this, for he has represented as those who suffer eternal punishment in Hades, kings and princes, Tantalus, and Sisyphus and Tatius. But Tacitus or any other private person who did wrong has by no one been represented as afflicted with cruel punishment because incurable. For I suppose he had not the power and therefore was happier than those who had. But Callicles, it is among the most powerful that you find the superlatively wicked. Still there is nothing to prevent good men from finding a place even among the powerful. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and those who do so are deserving of special admiration. For it is difficult, Callicles, and most praiseworthy to pass through life in righteousness when you have every license to do wrong. But men of this kind are few, though both in Athens and elsewhere there have been, and, I fancy, will yet be, honourable men and true, who possess the virtue of managing justly whatever is entrusted to them. And one of these won great renown even among the rest of the Greeks, Aristides, son of Lysimachus, but most of those in power, my good friend, prove evil. As I said then, whenever Ramadantus receives one of these, he knows nothing else about him, his name or origin, only that he is evil. And when he perceives this, he dispatches him straight to Tartarus, after first setting a seal upon him, to show whether he appears to him curable or incurable. And on arrival there he undergoes the appropriate punishment. But sometimes he sees another soul, that has lived in piety and truth, that of the private citizen or any other, but in especial I maintain Callicles. The soul of a philosopher who has applied himself to his own business and not played the busybody in his life. And he is filled with admiration and sends him forthwith to the Isles of the Blessed. And Aicus behaves in exactly the same way. Each of the two gives sentence staff in hand, and Minos sits as judge of appeal, and he alone bears the scepter of gold, even as Odysseus in Homer says he saw him holding a scepter of gold, rendering laws to the dead. Now I have been convinced by these stories, Callicles, and I am considering how I may present to my judge the healthiest possible soul. And so I renounce the honours sought by most men. And pursuing the truth, I shall really endeavour both to live and, when death comes, to die. As good a man as I possibly can be. And I exhort all other men thereto to the best of my power. And you above all I invite in return to share this life and to enlist in this contest which I maintain excels all other contests. And I reproach you in your turn because you will not be able to help yourself when the trial and judgment takes place of which I spoke just now. But when you come before your judge, the son of Aegina, and he seizes hold of you, you will gape and reel to and fro there, no less than I do here, and perhaps someone will humiliate you by boxing your ears, and will do you every kind of outrage. Now perhaps all this seems to you like an old wives' tale, and you despise it, and there would be nothing strange in despising it if our searchers could discover anywhere a better and truer account. But as it is, you see that you three, who are the wisest Greeks of the day, you and Polus and Gorgias, cannot demonstrate that we should live any other life than this, which is plainly of benefit also in the other world. But amid all these arguments, while others were refuted, this alone stands steadfast, that we should be more on our guard against doing than suffering wrong, and that before all things a man should study not to seem but to be good. A man should study not to seem but to be good, whether in private or in public life, and that if anyone proves evil in any way, he should be chastised. And next to being good, the second best thing is to become good, and to make amends by punishment, and that we should avoid every form of flattery, whether to ourselves or to others, whether to few or to many, and that rhetoric and every other activity should ever so be employed to attain justice. If you will listen to me, then you will follow me, where on your arrival you will win happiness both in life and after death, as our accounts reveal. And you may let anyone despise you as a fool, and do you outrage if he wishes. Yes, and you may cheerfully let him strike you with that humiliating blow, for you will suffer no harm thereby if you really are a good man and an honourable, and pursue virtue. And after such training in common together, then at last, if we think fit, we may enter public life, or we may take counsel together on whatever course suggests itself, when we are better able to take counsel than now. For it seems to me shameful that, being what apparently at this moment we are, we should consider ourselves to be fine fellows, when we can never hold to the same views about the same questions, and those too the most vital of all. So deplorably uneducated are we. Then let us follow the guidance of the argument now made manifest, which reveal to us that this is the best way of life, to live and die in the pursuit of righteousness and all other virtues. Let us follow this, I say, inviting others to join us, not that which you believe in and commend to me, for it is worthless, dear Callicles. That is Gorgias. Have a good day.